Hi, my name is Clare and I'm the mother of 3 teenagers with FASD.
I'm Jessica, a PhD researcher specialising in educational interventions for children with FASD.
And together we are the hosts of Spotlight on FASD, the UK's first podcast dedicated to shining a spotlight on fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
FASD is a condition caused by prenatal alcohol exposure that affects hundreds of thousands of children across the UK.
And we're here to bring these conversations out of the shadows and make sure that no one living with FASD feels alone.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight on FASD. We are really excited today to be joined by Angie, who is a biological mother of a child with FASD, and she is joining us from Melbourne, Australia. Now, this is a conversation that we've been wanting to arrange with Angie for weeks and weeks. And you know, we finally had the opportunity to work our schedules and time differences and everything together to have this conversation. And we're really thrilled that you've joined us to chat with us today. So hi, Angie.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for giving me the platform.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So we first of all, we are so grateful that you're taking the time to talk to us about this.
Mm-hmm.
You and your story is everything that we want to get across about FASD. So I suppose, for our listeners who don't know anything about you, who might not have encountered you on Twitter, will you just tell us how you ended up being here, this warrior mother? I was just thinking earlier when we're having a little bit of a chat before we started to record, I'm sitting listening to you and I'm thinking, as a mother, I'm sitting here thinking, this is what motherly love is. This is what motherly love looks like and sounds like. So I'm already going to start crying. We haven't started. So just tell us how you found yourself here. Just kind of start your story.
My story, basically I was told that I could not conceive children without IVF, and at that point I was devastated about that. I was really devastated about that. I was told that I had zero chance to fall pregnant, and also my dear mother, she got a brain cancer, which is very aggressive and it's terminal. No one survived to this day. So she passed away at 58, which hit me terribly hard. And I turned to alcohol to self-medicate. And having been told that I couldn't have a child, that there was zero option except for IVF, I suddenly was feeling a bit strange one day, and I took a test and I couldn't believe it. And I found myself at 34 years of age, hopelessly alcoholic. Mum had passed away in 2007 and my son was born in 2009. So, I had become a 24/7 top-up drunk, basically. And, with no prospect or chance or hope of getting pregnant. And then I found myself pregnant at 34 and hopelessly alcoholic. So, I got through that the best I could. I couldn't, physically couldn't stop because, if I did, every time I tried, my son Shay would go into distress. He was born early, and he needed a little bit of help when he was born. He needed some oxygen and a feeding tube for 2 days. We were in hospital for 7 days. And so he was my little miracle baby. And, no mother or no woman would actually deliberately drink to hurt their baby. And I didn't mean to hurt my baby either. It was my miracle baby. I was told I couldn't have one. My mum had passed. He's my miracle baby. And he had a low birth weight and he needed some help. And so after a couple of years, he needed to go and live with his dad because I was not coping well. I wasn't doing well at all. So he needed to go and live with his dad. His dad and I didn't work out. There were issues, obviously, you know, I had my issues. And yeah, we didn't work out, but he's remarried to such a lovely lady, and yeah, they actually foster carers themselves, and they've got really high need children, and also my little girl who's going to get a FASD diagnosis. So yeah, they're doing just a power of work themselves, and I'm eternally grateful to them, because Shane needed to be elsewhere so that I could get myself better. And I also want to add in there that I don't want to portray that it was all sweetness and light, because it wasn't. We had our World War III, and we did play tug of war with Shay as parents. You know, as often happens, you know, there was a tug of war, and I do want to make it sort of really clear that, you know, as a bio mum, there's a lot of adoptive parents out there, and yeah, as a bio mum, it really hurts. It hurts a lot, for the shame and the guilt, like mother's guilt. Every woman with guilt is just horrid at the best of times. But you know, being a bio mum, it can really get on top of you. So I needed to work through that, and you know, stop living in the past with that, as if time had stood still, and do some serious work on myself for the, you know, to get myself better, because if I wasn't okay, I wasn't okay for anybody. So I'm eternally grateful that his father and his lovely wife, they had Shay with them for quite a few years, his sort of formative years. And yeah, so he was in a really good kindergarten, so it only made sense for him to go on to the primary school there. And yeah, so importantly about our World War III, we sorted it out. We got through it. We needed to, because we have this dear little fella. And the best thing for these kids is continuity, routine, seamless backwards and forwards if you happen to be co-parenting, and just total, because my child, and I think I've heard it a lot of FASD kids, they pick up very quickly on our emotions. Whether we think we're hiding it or not, they pick it up very quickly.
They can
they can. And so, yeah, it's really, really important, because anxiety is often very high in FASD kids. They're worrying about a lot of stuff. So the seamless transitions, and also it's really, really helpful, even though we're in different households, for everybody to be on the same page. So we've got all of Shay's therapist notes get emailed across the board, so that everybody is on the same page. And yeah, he doesn't really get a chance to play us off against each other. He might like to do sometimes, but that doesn't work, because he's well aware that everybody knows everything. So
it sounds like the perfect blueprint, but I love how honest you are, that it took a lot of hard work. Like, it wasn't just this kind of perfect blended family situation. It took a lot of hard work with him at the center of it all. I want to take you back a tiny little bit. I've got a question. When you found out you were pregnant, that shock discovery, at that point, did you have any awareness? Did you know fetal alcohol spectrum disorder was even a thing? Did you know anything about it?
No. I knew that there were warning labels on alcohol. We've actually rallied in Australia to have those changed to be more predominant, to look like an actual black and white warning, as opposed to a little maybe you shouldn't when you drink. So yeah, but no, I didn't. But I did start looking it up straight away, because I knew that alcohol in pregnancy was not good. But as far as FASD, no, I was unawares of that before I started extensively researching.
This is something
because I knew it was coming.
We talk about this a lot, because as women, you just have this background knowledge. It's just kind of, you know, it's not a good idea. You know, it's not good for your unborn baby to drink alcohol, but we don't actually know why it's not good, or what it can potentially do or will do. And I think that's just, you know, this is just clearly a worldwide situation, and it baffles me. It baffles me that it's such a dangerous topic, and it's just, I think, you know, like governments and, you know, authorities are just so blasé about it. Like, you know, it's maybe not a good idea, but, you know, obviously it is entirely up to the individual. But I just think that I haven't spoken to anyone yet who knew what alcohol would do to their unborn baby when they were pregnant. We just don't know, and I know it's changing now, but it just, you know, it fascinates me to think that there's just no education out there around it as standard as growing up. Like I never knew anything about it, and you know, we talk about this so much, and I wondered at that point if you know, I can imagine you were just in such shock that you'd found out that you were pregnant, and then a mixture as well, because you must have also been elated because you didn't think you could have a baby. So it was like winning the lottery, just wonderful news. And then, so when you found out, when you started to read about it, what did you do? Did you speak to any kind of medical professional about your concerns before he was born, or did that?
I did speak to my OBGYN about it, but I did at the time feel quite judged about it, and the simple explanation that was put to me is, well, you must stop and just stop. And as I said, I tried that a couple of times, and that didn't really, it didn't work. I would go into distress, and he would go into distress every time. So, but yeah, I felt very, very judged by the OBGYN. And that's not to say that, you know, they're not a bad OBGYN, but it's you can see that the shame starts.
Yep.
Straight away.
Very early in pregnancy, because I did start to disclose this, but then I wasn't shut down. It was, and with sort of no referral to a counselling service, or and back then I didn't really have any knowledge of the 12-step program I'm in now, so I sort of didn't really feel like I had anywhere to turn. And after seeing the my OBGYN for the first time and getting that kind of a reaction, I was less wanting to reach out any further
to talk to anyone else about it.
Yeah, so I just looked at the horrors on the internet, and to be honest, I tried to pick and choose like the good parts, and I would say one or two and all that, and there's few of them out there, unfortunately, so they're the ones I was looking for, but trying to, you know, pick out the good stuff. But yeah, so the main things I was looking for were like the facial features and things like that, but I had no idea that FASD was such a broad spectrum. It is just so broad that it's incredibly just a very wide spectrum. And so yeah, that was my experience with my first disclosure of my situation, and it didn't go overly well. So yeah, that sort of put me on the back step a little bit.
And it could have so easily, you know, you could have so easily gone the other way with that and thought, oh gosh, I'll never say anything again.
Yes.
You know, that reaction could very, very easily have been, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said anything. I'll keep quiet next time. This is how I'm going to feel every time. And, you know, feeling that shame from just one person's reaction, you know, the strength that you had to go on and continue to say, you know, this is the situation in my pregnancy. This is the situation for my child. Can you help me? Really, like, you know, going to these medical professionals and saying, like, here's the information, I'm giving it to you, it's admirable. It's incredible that, because I don't, you know, I find it so easy to put myself, and I feel like many of our listeners will as well, but to put ourselves in your position there. You know, you lose your mother very suddenly. Your coping mechanism, because I'm sure across the globe mental health services are not very easily accessible, or they're expensive, or, you know, there's not really much support there for things like that in terms of So, you know, it's very, very, very easy to turn to alcohol or turn to anything else as a coping mechanism.
You're encouraged to.
Well, yeah.
You're encouraged to as a society.
Yeah.
Something good happens, celebrate with alcohol. Something bad happens, make yourself feel better with alcohol.
Yeah.
It is such an easy, you know, I lost somebody very, very close to me through this, and I didn't think I could live alongside something like that happening and not realise that it was happening and not be able to stop it from happening. And, you know, but it's so socially, it's not even socially acceptable. It is socially encouraged to make yourself feel better by just putting the wine or the lovely gin in your shopping trolley. And, you know, there's nothing, you know, I do like a drink of alcohol when I'm able to clear at least 24 hours after, where I can, like, where I don't have to kind of look after 3 kids, which is very rare. But so I'm not saying that I'm, you know, completely anti-alcohol, but we are, as women, you feel like you've got to come up with a good reason not to drink alcohol. Like, there's so much pressure, and it's just a trickle, a constant trickle of this will make you feel better, and it's just so easy to do. And it's just, you know, there, you know, but by the grace of God, go anyone, because it is so easily, that slippery slope is so easy to go down when that is making you feel better, and it's something that you can easily get, and it's affordable. You know, it isn't difficult at all for it to happen. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not difficult for that to happen. It's not, and it doesn't take a particularly extreme circumstance, because I think there are, you know, way more people than would even, and it's not even a case of them not admitting it, but that would even register with them that actually they do depend on alcohol to get through their lives, which are, by anyone's standards, you know, successful, you know, ordinary, you know, good jobs, family. And actually, there is a dependence on alcohol all the way through that, and that's not a judgment. It's just a fact. So I kind of want to use that example of that's our standard blueprint of modern life now, to show that it is not a big step. To the next level. It's not a big step at all.
No, it really isn't. And I'd also like to, we would have touched on this anyway, I think, but I'd like to sort of interject and say that, you know, it's so important that people know that you do not have to drink at high or alcoholic levels for FASD to occur in your baby. There are many women that go to a wedding, or it's New Year's Eve or Christmas and New Year's Eve, and just, you know, hit it really hard and have a few drinks and then find out they're pregnant, and they haven't done anything wrong, and they need not feel ashamed about that you know, they didn't know they were pregnant. But it's really important to reiterate that I know that the general consensus from what I've heard is that you do need to drink at high levels for FASD to occur, and as we know, that's not true. One or two drinks at a wedding can cause potential damage. So there really is no safe limit. And
I think that's one of the urban myths that's up there with and it's not that it's an urban myth. What Jess and I always say is, when we know better, we do better. So years ago, that was what everybody thought. Children with FASD were only born to alcoholic mothers. We know differently now, and that's not the case. And it's the same with the facial features. There are still so many medical professionals who will only diagnose if there are visible facial features, and that's such a tiny percentage. There's more chance of a child not having them than having them. And again, that depends on the point in pregnancy that alcohol was consumed. And I think what you've just raised there, like say Christmas and New Year, and we want to talk about this to try and comfort and protect women. We don't want to talk about this to judge women in any way. You have no clue that you're pregnant. It's Christmas and New Year.
And you have no clue that you could get pregnant either in your life,
and so you are living normal life. You are living a normal life that not a single person would judge, because it's Christmas and New Year. You're enjoying a drink like most other people. To then be kind of, you know, to then find out that you're pregnant, you should be able to say, right, okay, so this is it should be so matter of fact, like I ate these foods, I did this, and I drank this. Okay, let's keep a track of that. And if we're running into problems down the line, we'll know what we'll have a pathway to go down. And it just should be as matter of fact as that. And that's what we are striving for. And hopefully with the nice quality standards that are coming out in the UK this year, we want to just normalise that as part of your every intervention with a medical professional when you're pregnant, and far from kind of trying to monitor women and tell us what you're doing and we're going to keep a track of it and use it against you. It is the polar opposite of that. Yeah, and I just think that I feel so passionately about it, because we kind of, in no other, I always go down these trains of thought when I'm talking about stuff. If an accident occurred during pregnancy, like an accident that anyone would happily accept was an accident, heaven and earth would be moved to support the mother, to support that child throughout their lives. Heaven and earth would be moved, because that would be such a sad thing. And I think it is only because of society's attitude towards alcohol that that doesn't happen to our FASD children, and it makes me sad and angry and fuels me in equal measure that that's not the case. And why on earth? Shame on anybody who doesn't see it that way. Shame on them, really. That's how I feel about it. I'd never thought about it like that before. Imagine someone contracted some kind of infection in pregnancy and ended up with a child with a disability, and it would just be, oh, that is so tragic, and let's try and help, and what can we do, and services in place, and this child can't suffer. Children, quite often, who are born with FASD end up inadvertently being punished for it through the systems for the rest of their lives. And that is just wrong, and that needs to stop. And it will stop. It will, but it's so sad that it happens anyway. And I just think that, I love talking to you about this and normalising this, and just forever grateful that you're willing to share your story, because there are so many people who wouldn't feel brave enough to do that because of the judgment, and I suppose even from their own families as well, when it's, I just don't know how we will get over it, but it's just such a steep learning curve for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what's really, really important here is that, and you've said that you went to those appointments and you spoke about your alcohol use, and you had those conversations, and you were very, very open, and as a result of that, your son received these early interventions. These things were in place, and there was services within Australia, within your area, that you could access. And as a result of that, he's doing brilliantly. We talk about early intervention and the benefits of, having that early diagnosis and early intervention. So, I was just hoping that you could speak to that a little bit, because, I think your story and your honesty and the fight that you've had to overcome, and to then overcome, the societal view of FASD, and get these supports for your son in place, has made his life so much better. And your bravery has completely changed the trajectory of where he is now. And so, please share a little bit about that, because I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, again, his father and wife actually started him in early intervention. He was diagnosed, I think, originally with autism, but cut that out. No, he was diagnosed by a FASD informed paediatrician who actually saw his facial features straight away, and we were going there for a second opinion on an autism diagnosis, and he was able to take one look at Shay and my history, of course, and within 2 minutes he said, this child does not have autism, this child has FASD. And that was the diagnosis on the paper. So then at that point, Shay was still living with his father and his wife, and they were a little ways away, so they got him started into early intervention when he was 3. So he went into speech and he went into OT. He's only just started psych at 10, because he's a little bit young for psych.
Yeah, it's not really appropriate before then, is it? It's not that you're not.
No.
It's just not appropriate. He's not ready for it before then. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, they got him started, and yeah, he had OT, speech. So from about 3 years old, he was receiving this. And huge shout out to OTs, guys. I am guilty of thinking that OT might be, I'll get speech going and sight going, and then I'll think about an OT. OTs are if you've got a choice out of anyone, pick an OT.
Yeah,
because
it's top of the pile, isn't it? We discussed this before we recorded. If as a parent or a carer of a child with FASD, if you found yourself in a world where you could only choose one intervention, hands down, with no hesitation, OT, and the same as you. And it's so funny, isn't it? Because when we were talking, I was going, that's exactly how I felt. I gave it no weight. I just really didn't think it played any role, and it's pivotal in everything. So OT, and I think listening to you talk there, when you said when you were pregnant and you started to Google for stuff and you were trying to find the positive things, everything you're talking about now, early intervention, that's what you were searching for on the internet. What has happened with your son, what you've done with your son, that's what you were searching for, those stories.
And it just wasn't there.
What I want to stress is early intervention changes everything for FASD. And that's a pretty bold statement, but it is absolutely true. And most people are at least a decade into life before they get a diagnosis, at least, and that's just because of the lack of knowledge around it. And I think that if we could stress to any biological mother who either is concerned, is pregnant now or already has a child and knows that at the beginning or throughout, whatever, knows that alcohol was consumed, if nothing else can if we can kind of put this support blanket around them and just say, if you can find the strength to speak to somebody about it as soon as possible, you will change the path of your child's life 100%, without doubt. It is so, so important. Yeah.
A lot of the thoughts that can run through or have run through my head was, how selfish I'd been. It was pointed out to me that, it was an accident and, that it happened as it happened. But yeah, you feel very, very alone, very selfish. So yeah, my kind of take on it is that the past is the past and it's happened and we cannot change that no matter what. It's a lifelong condition. So the earlier you can get to it, the earlier we can get these interventions in, and the best outcomes these kiddos can have. But
where we are now, what are you involved in? So let's just recap. Your strength and the strength of your Shay's dad and his lovely wife, your combined strength and determination, you've got him on the best path you can possibly be on. You have recovered yourself from a hideous illness and still working on that every single day. What else are you doing, Superwoman? Like where are you now? What are you involved with? Where has this led you? You've got him on the right path, and now I suspect it doesn't stop there, because that's the kind of thing that happens when you are bitten by this bug. And even though you are sleep deprived and have not a minute to blink, you find yourself involved in everything because you can't stay quiet about it. That's my experience anyway. So I imagine it is the same for you on the other side of the world.
It is mine too. Yes, absolutely. I completely outed myself on public Facebook and put it out there on Twitter and everything. And I just wanted to get the ball rolling, just to say, for birth mums and stuff, I know how you feel, and life can be really difficult. And when kids can hit milestones, but then they get to primary school and they start to get into trouble, and they seem like they're naughty kids or disruptive kids or generally non-compliant, and they get consequences for that. Whereas the truth of the matter is they literally haven't been able to process, because their executive functioning is damaged, they actually haven't been able to process what's asked of them. So they do nothing. They sort of fight flight with that. And they end up being, the naughty kids and the kids that are, that we were talking about earlier, that get lost in school systems and stuff like that. So really, it's just sort of an encouragement to any mum out there. You know your child best, and if you're seeing little, I like to call them symptoms rather than behaviours.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing it, and you've gone for a diagnosis of ADHD or autism or something, ASD, and it's just come back with nothing, it's definitely worth going back and having a look, because the spectrum's so broad. If you're having a bit of a head scratch about why is my child having these kinds of reactions and symptoms, and why did they learn something yesterday but they don't know it today? There is a big chance that it could be FASD, and it's worth going back, and it's worth coming forward, ladies. It really is, because your life can be made so much better. Your kiddo's life is made so much better. They have an easier time at school once you're armed with everything, and also get armed with everything. That parent, that parent that might flood the school with FASD stuff and email 3 times a week, and send through free videos and webinars and just basically flood them and be generally a pain in the backside. But yeah, to his school's credit, they totally accommodate him. He has timeouts. They ask him when every 15 minutes, brain breaks. He has sensory stuff, and all of this, back to this again, has been recommended by, you guessed it, his OT. And it's all his OT.
Life changes, yeah.
And life changes. And so I'd really like to to wrap some cotton wool around women that have consumed alcohol in pregnancy, and just to let them know that, it is the most selfless thing that you can do for your child, to just speak out. And, hopefully, my dream is that people say, if I mention FASD, I don't get a blank look. Like if you mention ASD, it's like, yep, absolutely. You mention FASD, and 9 times out of 10, it's, oh, what's that? I'd love it to be well known as ASD, but ASD does not come with the stigma that FASD does. And I'd really like to try and remove that stigma, because, as we've said, no woman sets out to intentionally hurt their baby. And early diagnosis is really important. But even if anyone's listening to this and maybe their child's a bit older than 3 years old, it doesn't matter. The earlier, the better.
Oh yeah, and just diagnosis full stop. And I know there's a lot of conversation around not want to label a child, or do I want to label a child with this? No, you're fitting a lens on their life that everybody gets to look through the same lens, and to be able to accommodate them appropriately. Listen, Angie, I know it's very, very late in Australia now. We are so grateful that you've stayed up to talk to us.
No, that's fine.
I absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that you will be on this podcast over and over and over again.
Oh, I really hope so.
Yeah, you definitely will. But I'm just so grateful from one mother to another, from one woman to another, that you have shared your story with us. And it's just, I think it's such a story of hope. And I just hope that if one person listens to this and thinks, right, I know that this has happened, and I'm going to speak to somebody about it, then it would just mean everything. And I think that I'm very grateful to you for sharing it with us. So thank you very much.
So probably what I'll leave you with is it's no blame, no shame, ladies, but there is plenty of hope. With a diagnosis, doors open, windows open, and you, instead of trying to get these kiddos to fit into our world, we can actually accommodate their world. Yeah. And when we do that, beautiful things happen, because these kids they definitely have weaknesses. but they have some killer strengths as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
My son is humorous. So if we can get the right accommodations in place, then those strengths really, really shine through, and that's the best way forward for everybody. So no blame, no shame, plenty of hope, and hopefully I've helped at least one person to
I'm sure.
to feel better about yourselves, ladies.
Definitely.
Women, everybody. Just don't be too hard on yourself about it. Things happen, but they're our kiddos, and we can make a better life for them by and don't be, if there's people that aren't FASD informed, don't be scared to shout it from the rooftops. I think my child has FASD, because sometimes that's required too. A lot of shouting from rooftops. So, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for letting us share your story. Thank you for coming and joining us, and full of admiration for what you've done, and for you speaking out, and being public about it, and taking on a role very similar to Clare, and fighting daily to better the lives of those on the same journey, and just paving that pathway that's ahead of everybody in this world. So yes, and thank you everybody for listening once again. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode. We've really loved chatting to Ange, and as always, if anybody wants to get in touch, if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to do so. But we really, really hope that this episode has helped some people, and there's a lot to be taken away. So thank you.
Thanks again, Ange.
Thank you.